Okay, so welcome to Chartbeat, and this is a quick guide to our new intuitive analytics tool, which is designed to track live user activity across editorial only on racingpost.com. So it's going to measure how users engage with the index, or as Chartbeat would call it, landing pages, and any subsequent pages across news, tipping, bloodstock, race day live, and sport. There'll be a few terms that crop up here, and if you're ever unsure about anything, there's a link on my guides to the Chartbeat glossary, which goes into far more detail and will explain some of these references and terms in much better detail. So let's jump in, and when you sign in, click on racingpost.com and you'll be served the main dashboard page. We might talk about some of these features another time, but in short, it gives you a little bit of historical data here, and you can understand what the previous day's activity was by clicking on daily content perspective. But most of our activity is going to be in real time, because ultimately this is a live tool. It's all about using the live figures to help you understand what's doing well and what's not, and to help you either supplement and add to good performing output, or do remedial work, or add tweaks to stuff that isn't doing quite as well as we might expect. So we can break this down into a few areas. The headline figures are up here in the top left. You've got a figure for concurrence, which is telling you how many people are currently involved. So these are unique individuals currently involved in editorial across racingpost.com. So that will be index pages, content pages, news, tipping, bloodstock, race day live, and sport. That's the number. And it's giving me an idea of what the average would be for Tuesdays at 9:15, and it'll also give me a figure in this hover over for the maximum number of concurrents in the last month. And we can also see details on this speedometer here, which is grayed out to give you an idea of performance. Next up is recirculation. Now, recirculation is the detailed explanation. It can be a bit sort of confusing, but in short, it's all about how many people are moving from one piece of editorial content to another piece of editorial content, and not clicking away to another site or into other elements of the Racing Post, like cards or results. So the definition is that this number refers to the percentage of people who are still on a subsequent page compared to the current audience of the first page they hit. And remember, it doesn't count people, it doesn't count outside news. So what we're talking about with recirculation is, are we getting people to move from one piece of content to another piece of content and enjoy it, as opposed to go into one piece of content, decide they've had enough, and close racingpost.com down in favour of something else. So we want a really nice high percentage on recirculation. Engaged time, as it suggests, is an average of the amount of engagement users are having in our content. The bar for engagement is quite high, though. So we're talking with engagement about the average of how long our audience spends on an item of content, and this is recorded every second, and engagement is only counted as scrolls, clicks, mouse movements, touch events, and keystrokes. So if you're not doing one of those things, you're not considered to be engaged as far as Chartbeat is concerned. So those are the headline figures. Let's have a quick look over here on the right hand side, and it's got traffic sources up here, and this is telling you where people are accessing their editorial content from. Anyone travelling from within racingpost.com, including the homepage, will be considered internal traffic. Anyone coming from social media, Facebook and Twitter, counts here. Direct traffic is to do with people who've got maybe a bookmark for our site. Search will be people accessing editorial within racingpost.com via Google and similar. And then finally, people who've accessed content via a link. Down here, we've got referrers. And typically these won't change greatly. You've got Twitter, Google, emails, instant messenger, Facebook, and so on. And this is telling you where the traffic is coming from. And then specifically, we've got a ranking here of where traffic comes via particular tweets. And this will be from Racing Post tweets and third-party tweets as well. So another trigger to encourage you to think about tweet activity promoting content. Okay, so that's the headlines and where the traffic's coming from. Let's think about our visitors here. And here we're looking at visitor frequency. And if we hover over, it'll tell us that this figure here relates to new visitors, who are people who visited the first time in at least 30 days, and we get an idea of the average with these little thin lines here. Now we're quite late at night on a Tuesday, so we're slightly below average at the moment. Returning visitors, well, they're best defined by loyal, actually. So if we look at loyal next, you can see that these are people who visited on 8 or more days in the last 16, and we're doing rather better on that. We're above average. And then returning visitors are kind of the ones that sit slightly in between. We also break down visitors by device and by location. Okay, the most obvious thing on the page here is the graph and the charts here, the charts that give the device its name. And so top of the list here is this graph, and that's showing concurrent activity over the course of the day, and it breaks down within that chart according to where the traffic's come from using these color codes. Behind here you can see a thin grey line, and that shows you what the traffic was doing this time last week. And if I click up here, you can see we can select via week and also by month, and you'll see a nice little surge in activity around Aintree. Okay, most of the time you want to be selecting today because we want to be thinking this is a live tool. And the next thing is to look at the chart, and this will rank according to concurrence. So we know that the most concurrents are currently on this item here. And because it's got an L, it indicates it's a landing page. A landing page for us is an index page, and the news index page will tend to be towards the top most times, and then you'll have the stories which have attracted the most traffic, and they'll be ranked. You'll also get little flags here, so this one's telling you you're getting 5% of your traffic via Twitter. This one says we're getting 8% of traffic via Facebook, and this is telling us that the story is drawing new visitors. So look out for these little flags, and you can see this is updating all the time. So you've got your concurrent numbers here, and you've got average time on page, average engaged time on page on the right here. We can toggle this to search by engaged time, so the item that's drawing most engagement at the top, and we can also search via recirculation, so the item that is as a percentage triggering most recirculation. Okay, so let's have a look at this by concurrence, and if I scroll down to the very bottom, you can see there's an option to look right back and see pages that are getting slightly less traffic. Okay, so anytime we want to delve down and get a bit more detail, just click on the item and it'll give you an idea of the story of traffic over the course of the existence of the piece, and importantly it'll tell you where people are recirculating from that page, and you can also see how the figures have changed here. So we're looking at concurrence have changed, recirculation has changed, and engaged time has changed. We're on an index page, so you'd expect recirculation to be very high, but it'll also give you a breakdown of the type of traffic and how people have arrived according to the details on this specific page. And as you'd expect, direct traffic is slightly higher given it's an index page. If you weren't sure what this page looks like, you just need to give it a click and you'll be sent to the page in question. When I've had enough, I just click back to site up here, and let's go in and do a bit more detail on the story for a change. So this hasn't been up for very long. It's still got good recirculation going on down here, and we can see the breakdown here and up here and down here. And then again, if we're not sure what the page looks like, we just give it a click, and it looks to be a pretty good piece because you've got lots of related stories, key data, and there's a link at the top and the bottom. Okay, so we can use this to examine how stories are doing and wonder why, for example, they are falling down the charts or surging up the charts, and we need to respond if they're doing either of those two things. But this tool is a little bit more subtle than that, because we can actually narrow down our search quite specifically. Anywhere where you see one of these boxes, you can start to narrow down your search. So we could, for example, click on social, and this will just show us the charts according to social media, people who've traveled in via social media. And we can see most people using social media are actioning it via their mobile. So we can then narrow that further down and say, okay, which people using social to get to the site and using a mobile, what are they looking at? And then on top of that, we could maybe select new and see what the new audience on a mobile traveling in via social media are actually accessing. And then I can clear those up here and bring us back to our main view. So you can see it's quite flexible, and it enables you to really drill down and get some detail. We can also search by sections or pages, and we can search by authors, and that can also be pretty useful if you're trying to narrow things down. And the sort of questions you might want to ask yourself is, if something's doing well all round in every single element, and it's strong on social and it's getting lots of new traffic, then you might want to be thinking, is there more content we can add to this, or what else might we do to respond to the fact that we understand this is a popular piece? If it's proving really popular on search, then you might think, well, I better put this story up on the homepage, or give it more prominence on the index page, or put it out on social media, because you can understand that people are searching for a particular story. If there's lots of engagement but not much traffic, again, we might want to boost exposure. If it's not getting engagement but there's plenty of traffic, then investigate where we're falling short. Are users being lured to the site but their expectations not being met? And if a story is peaked and is starting to lose traction, think about whether we can update the item. Is there a twist? Is there extra stuff we can do? Or is it as simple as getting another tweet out? So these are all the kind of things you might want to think about as you explore Chartbeat. When you finish, if you're using a shared account, when you finish, don't forget to sign out. And the best way to do that is to click on the Sites and Settings button here, and then click on Sign Out.